Hi, I'm Tim Linsdau, video producer. I want to talk about dry times. It's actually a biblical metaphor, if you will, for times of no joy or difficulties, drought. Here in Southern California, we know what drought is. One year we have rain, and one year we have drought. Arizona the same. They know what dry is, no rain. What is dry times in our lives? How can we have dry times? Well, let's think about that. When we're not motivated well, when we're unhappy, when we're struggling, when things are difficult, those can be dry times. The Bible speaks of the water coming forth in the desert and filling the water or the desert with a pool of water, cooling and soothing. It's a great metaphor when we think about water, especially when we don't have a lot of it, or especially if you're lost in the desert. It becomes the most valuable thing there is water. So those dry times represent difficult times. What do we do in those difficult times? What is that about? What could God be doing in difficult times, allowing those things to come upon us? Let's think of people like Job, Noah, and Jesus Christ. He had his time, and you may have read about his prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane before his passion and crucifixion. He was sweating as in great drops of blood, is the description. A difficult time. For us, God can allow these things to come on us to grow and to learn, to seek Him, to seek love of others. That was something He said, love God with all your might, basically, and love your neighbor. So in those dry times, it's a challenge, to maybe your neighbor irritates you a little bit, so you feel like you're in a dry time. But again, what are they going through that day? How can you be understanding, loving, helpful in that dry time? It may be moving you towards something. We have a tendency, I think, to mature in fits and starts. Things happen. It seems difficult. You learn something new about yourself. Maybe you learn a shortcoming, something bad economics in your household. Maybe you're not doing a good job as a good steward of what you have. Health is a big one. I know as you get older, things start to break down. Disease comes in. That can be difficult. You think of your youth when you're healthy and active. It seems like it'll never end, but it does. But that can be a time to learn from that dry time, a time to be quiet and ponder on why this is happening and learn from it. God, I think, uses these things to move you towards Him, to pursue Him, to seek Him. As it is written, knock and it will be opened unto you. And that's what those things, I think, are about, is moving you towards Him. I think of times when I've had a dry time when, say I was upset with somebody about the way they treated me. And we remember in the Lord's Prayer, forgive others. It's very important. Again, you don't know what they might have been going through that day, that they said a harsh word and not meant it, but they were striking out in pain. and opportunity for us to learn from. Are we doing the same thing? That's what I think of. You know, how am I doing that same thing that I don't like? The golden rule: treat others as you'd have them treat you, as you would want them to treat you. That's important. So in those dry times, those drought times, is a time to reflect. Think about what you're doing and how you're doing it, how you're affecting others. And take that time to be quiet and learn and grow. It can be actually a very terrific time. A time to relax. Find an oasis in the desert and relax and learn from it, ponder it. Some say meditate on it. It's good. It helps you to clear your mind, settle down, listen for God. He speaks very quietly. It can be very quiet if you just listen, giving you the answers you need to carry on. Many of the disciples, I'm sure, experienced some really difficult and dry times. History says that most of them died a martyr's death. That's kind of difficult to take. That's a hard thing to take, that would have happened. I suspect it was about them being an example of why would somebody die for a lie. That's pretty important, I think. And I'm sure those dry times were difficult, and they wondered, where's God at in this? I mean, many have heard the story of Job, and some have kind of laughed about it and said, in a difficult time, and they go, well, am I Job? Well, probably not. Most of us will never experience that difficulty. But having gone through that trial, became an example to many people, thousands of years later. That dry, difficult time for him became an example to us to learn and to grow in those difficult times. It's so important. Watch your anger. Watch how you react to these things. If you have an extreme reaction in dry time, there's probably something wrong. And that's what I was mentioning before. It's time for you to learn more about yourself. Life is a constant education. Constantly learning. That's what it's all about. You're constantly growing, constantly maturing, learning to be a better person, learning to serve your neighbor better, learning to serve God better. It's generally not automatic. It's a struggle. To face your shortcomings, realize you're wrong, to say I'm sorry. That can be hard to do, especially when you've felt you've been put upon. It's difficult, and that can be a dry time. It can be a drought in your life. Financial difficulties, marriage difficulties, difficulties with your friends, struggles in the country, whatever is going on. It can be very painful. And it's a time to challenge your thinking. See why you think the way you think. Is it right? Is it wrong? Seek those answers. Try to, look for them. Try and find them. I would look in the Bible. Remember that Bible is thousands of years old, of many different people in thought, prayer, learning from God, trying to find their way. It's every time I read, I know all of us know multiple verses like John 3:16. God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, and so forth. that those verses can mean something different to you probably every year of your life, because you change and mature and you get more out of it, or something different out of it that's going through your life, that you learn something new. Well, it's been terrific this morning discussing drought. Hopefully in California we get some rain this year. I'm Tim Linsdau. Please like my comment on my video, and please subscribe on my channel. Thank you.